We're still a country that has high unemployment. Exports are a big part of our economy, and the charter of the Ex-Im Bank says this. It exists to provide jobs for Americans, number one, and two, to provide financing, but only in those circumstances where private sector financing isn't available. So when we have those circumstances, a tough economy, high unemployment, now is not the time to be killing the Ex-Im Bank. And by the way, these big names that were mentioned, Caterpillar, Boeing, and others, yes, they make the planes or they make the heavy equipment, but the beneficiaries of this are the hundreds, if not thousands, of small and mid-sized suppliers, supply chain elements within those companies that support those companies that provide a whole ton of jobs. So this has been a successful program, and now is not the time to kill it.
And Tom, do you agree or disagree?
Well, I think what McCarthy is trying to do is send a message to the conservative base that there's a new sheriff in town in Washington. But the Republicans have to be very, very careful. You know, there's an old political adage: if you're explaining, you're losing. And you know, it's a lot easier for Democrats to try and explain in political ads this fall that Republicans killed a program that either creates or maintains government jobs. So while there are very legitimate concerns about crony capitalism here, about the taxpayer backstopping high-risk loans that the private sector frankly won't touch, the Republicans have a very, very tough line to walk in how they're going to message this and explain this should it not be reauthorized.
Then, Tim, why do it? I mean, the GOP has already had egg on its face a number of times the last couple of years, right? I mean, why get into this fight and bring up an issue that, as you said, the other side can just, you hate jobs. You hate people working. You want to kill a bank that creates jobs. I mean, how easy of a message is that?
Well, certainly, I applaud the idea that if the private sector can do something, the government shouldn't do it. So that's exactly a principled position. However, the test here is whether these things would actually happen in the private sector. And the charter says for the Ex-Im Bank, they shouldn't do those things the private sector should. So, again, with high unemployment, just coming off a recession, a fragile economy, you know, exports being so important to American businesses, not just for the big names, but for the medium and small suppliers of these big companies, this is not the time to be having this debate for the Republican Party or the conservatives. But in the wake of the Eric Cantor situation, they're going to have it.
What do you say when some companies say it's not a level playing field when it comes to the Ex-Im Bank?
Well, it really isn't. And when you look at who they're actually doing business with, or who the bank is doing business with, they are very well-financed, very well-connected companies in Washington. And this is what leads to this debate. Is this the proper role? Is this the proper role for government to be having? And you know, the GAO a couple of years ago said, you know, they're really not creating jobs. They're maintaining jobs. But let's be fair. It's important to maintain jobs in a down economy. So that really demonstrates just how tricky an issue this can be.